Okay, Erev Tov. Good evening, everyone. We are going to begin Gemara Masechah Berachot, Daf Yudalet Amud Bet. We're up to 14B. We're going to pick up from the 14B1. We ended off last time speaking about the end of the Shema Yisrael, and specifically about saying Hashem Elokechem Emet, Emet flowing into the next bracha, Emet v'yatziv v'nachon, or Emet v'emunah. How we said there should be no gap, no break between Hashem Elokechem Emet v'yatziv v'nachon v'kayam. The word Emet is really part of the next bracha, and Hashem Elokechem is the end of the pasuk. Put them together. So with that, we're going to speak a little bit about the last paragraph of Shema tonight, and then we're going to speak about the ordering once again. The order of first paragraph of Shema, second paragraph, third paragraph of Shema, and this should be wrapping up this topic. So just one question. Can anyone remind me why? This is from, we didn't have class last week. So from 2 weeks ago, can anyone remember why is it that Rabbi Yehuda tells us that when you end the third paragraph of Shema, you should go straight into saying Emet yasiv v'nachon v'kayam without taking a pause? Because the last week is Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hosidi lechem eretz Yisrael liot lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. Emet yasiv v'nachon v'kayam. How he says, combine them. Say Ani Adonai Elohechem Emet yasiv v'nachon. Anyone remember why? Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. It's because we had a pasuk in Yirmiyahu that says V'Adonai Elohim Emet. V'Adonai Elohim Emet, referring to God as Emet. So one of the names of God, or one of the attributes of God, is Emet. So therefore, when a person is finishing the Shema Yisrael and says Ani Hashem Elokechem, and the next word is talking about Emet, what we're going to do is we're going to attach it, because it's like getting two in one. You're double dipping on the word Emet. Ani Hashem Elokechem Emet, Hashem is Emet, and then v'yatziv v'nachon v'kayam. And the Gemara said, do you want us to repeat that question? And we said, no. The halacha is we're not going to, this is machloket, but don't repeat it. It's just attach it. You have it in one felt swoop. Okay? Yes. Correct. But that's really where it's from. The bracha that comes post starts with the word emet. Now, what they do is they'll print it that way, but it's actually part of the following bracha. Why do they attach it? Because of this opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. So that this way, the reason the printers do this is to show you that you have to say Ani Adonai Elohechem Emet, because that's what Rabbi Yehuda says. They're doing it that way. They're not throwing a gap. Mr. Kimian, Shamanu Alachem, we missed you. Hope you enjoyed everything. Shechianu, that you're back. Baruch Hashem. I'm going to open the Sidur, and we'll speak about this very briefly. Going to Shema Yisrael. We spoke about this last time, but I'll just show this to you again. Here, let me share screen for the people on the Zoom. Shalom Aleichem, everyone who joined the Zoom. So, you could see here, this is the third paragraph of Shema, etc., etc. Last line. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hosidi lechem eretz Yisrael liot lachem Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem. This Elohechem is where it ends. So if I annotate, let me pick a color. Right here is where Shema Yisrael ends. This word emet belongs part of the next bracha. You get that? But Rabbi Yehuda says, even though this is part of the previous bracha, Rabbi Yehuda says you have to combine these words into one, because Yirmiyahu Navi says, and maybe it's better I'll do it like this. Yirmiyahu Navi has a pasuk that says Hashem Elokechem Emet. So since Yirmiyahu says that Hashem is Emet, and since we have here the end of this paragraph ends up with Hashem Elokechem, and the beginning of this paragraph starts with the Emet, Rabbi Yehuda says, you know what? Let's get a second idea in here. In addition to the fact that the next bracha starts with the word Emet, in addition to that, we want to double dip, and you want to attach it to Hashem Elokechem so that you understand that one of the attributes of Hashem is Emet. Okay? So with that in mind, okay, now I can't scroll anymore. Here, close, got it. Same thing. Ani Hashem Elokechem Emet ve'emunah. That's the bracha. Emet ve'emunah is the bracha. Emet v'yatziv is the bracha. But you're combining it. Now, one thing I just want to speak about is this right here. Okay? It's a little bit confusing, but I'll just say it now. You see here, in the Sidur, this is not in the Gemara. The Sidur says, "V'chozer ha'chazan the chazan then repeats Adonai Elokechem Emet. Says it again, right? So what do you do when you say the Shema Yisrael? This is. Does someone want to tell me what they do? Because it's actually not so clear. How do I want to remove the Hebrew. Okay, let's just stick with Hebrew. And then we'll clear this. And now, hey, Baba. Okay, so here's what I want to show you. When you see this Hashem Elokechem Emet, this is where the Shema Yisrael ends, right? Ani Hashem Elokechem. Now what we're saying is, you need to combine it with the word Emet. And then we say the chazan should go back and say these words Hashem Elokechem Emet again. Why is he repeating it? And according to some, this was actually the question of the Gemara. Does anyone know why? It's a numbers game. Very good. Very good, very good. Is that what you're going to say? No, you weren't going to say. You could have just said yes, because I wouldn't have known. You might as well. Why are you saying no? You say, yeah, of course I was going to say that. So yes, the answer is, it has to do based on the Kabbalah. Based on, and I'm going to show you now, based on the Zohar HaKadosh. So let's look at this. Just quick halacha. Later tonight, if you have time, go ahead and read it. I'm going to read to you what it says about the Shema Yisrael. The Kriyat Shema, yesh Rama Tevot. What is Rama? 245. In the Kriyat Shema, it's yesh Rama Tevot. There's 245 words. Ukdei lehashlim ramach keneged evarav. And in order to get you to 248, which is the number of limbs on our body, shel adam, of the body, mesayem shliach sibur, Hashem Elokechem Emet. So the shliach sibur will say these extra 3 words of Hashem Elokechem Emet. It's a way of repeating these 3 words, so that this way you get up to the total of 248. The chozer ve'omer be'kol ram. After he says it again, Hashem Elokechem Emet. After he says it, the chazan says it the first time, he repeats it, and now that'll get him to 248. Why? Api Zohar. Sorry? Because anything else would be discontinuous. Like if you're saying the Shema Yisrael, and then at this point, what can you say so that it's not going to be discontinuous if you pick Ve'ayu ha'divrei ma'eleh, that you're in the middle of a bracha. So this is Api Kabbalah. What you do is you repeat these 3 words. The Ashkenazim, the Rama, tells us actually, and I think I could find it for you. The Rama actually says, no, I have a better way of doing it. Well, first, hold on. First, this is what it says the chazan should do. Right? The chazan says, Ani Adonai Elokechem, Ani Adonai Elokechem, Adonai Elokechem Emet. Says it like this. So even that first Emet is machloket, whether he should say it or not. Shulchan Aruch here says that he should. He says Adonai. He says you should say Adonai Elokechem Emet and then repeat Adonai Elokechem Emet. So according to Shulchan Aruch, you should say it again. But it's machloket, and some say you shouldn't. So then, if you look at the Kol Avatinu Sidur, it says the first time he should whisper it. So he said Ani Adonai Elokechem Asher Tzedek Lechem Eretz Yisrael Ani Adonai Elokechem Emet. Adonai Elokechem Emet, like this. Like that's how it should be said, right? Yes. Count it, man. Like I don't know. By the time I get up to there, it's like 244. I don't know. I always lose count. I'm not sure if it's yes or if I just lost count. I'm not sure. I'm kidding. Actually, I don't think it includes it. Which is why you sort of want to do this like that. Yeah, it's a good point. I should have counted before. Honestly, I should have counted before. We could count this together. You throw it into ChatGPT and have it counted for us. Okay, but this is Api Kabbalah. Now, look at what the Rama continues. The Haggah continues and says, once the chazan says it, you fulfill your obligation of getting 248. So says the Rama, and if everyone individually wants to say it also, you can. The proper way is you just listen to the chazan, okay? So right now, let's enact this. If one person is the chazan, he says, Ani Hashem Elokechem Asher Tzedek Lechem Eretz Yisrael Yod Lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elokechem, and then with a whisper, he says Emet, and then he says, and everyone listens while he says Adonai Elokechem Emet. The crowd doesn't need to repeat. That's what the Rama is saying. But if they want to, they can. Okay? But now, the Yeshekatvu, says the Rama, the Chol HaKoreh Kriyat Shema B'Yachid if you're reading by yourself, Yomar El Melech Ne'eman. These are 3 words. Has anyone ever seen this in the Sidur Ashkenazim? Yeah, this is the Ramah, he's Ashkenazi, where he says before, if you are doing it with the chazan is going to repeat the words Hashem Elokechem Emet. That's going to get your +3. If you're doing it by yourself, don't repeat those 3 arbitrary words. Instead, say El Melech Ne'eman beforehand, and those 3, then these Ki Shlosha Tevot Elu Mashlimim HaMinyan Shel HaRamach, that gets you to 248. Okay, we did a little bit of Kabbalah tonight. There is 248 limbs in your body. There's 245 words in the Shema. To correspond, you need to do +3. How do we do it? We add these 3. We spoke a little bit about what the practice of the chazan, what you're supposed to do with the chazan, and what you're supposed to do at home. Okay? Clear? Anyone have any questions? Yes.
Why do we respond in that?
So, excellent point. Why do we respond in that? So the truth of the matter is, as we learned from Rabbi Yehuda, what did Rabbi Yehuda tell us about saying emet? What is Rabbi Yehuda's statement? That you should not say with V'yasiv. It's part of V'yasiv. To say it with Hashem Elokechem, right? So according to Rabbi Yehuda, when a person is saying Shema, he should say, Ani Hashem Elokechem Emet. They should combine the 2. That's the whole statement of Rabbi Yehuda. So what you just said is a very important key. If you're sitting in the crowd, and the chazan says, Hashem Elokechem, and then everyone says, Emet. But if they're not up to saying Hashem Elokechem themselves, that's a problem. Right? If you said it already, then you should not be saying it. Right? And if you said Hashem Elokechem and you're sitting and waiting for the chazan, and then you say Emet, then what's the issue? That you're not combining it. And then to Ilan's point, do you remember last time's Gemara, we learned this, the Gemara said, should you chozer ve'omer or eno chozer ve'omer? Should you say Emet once or twice? And what did the Gemara say? He said you only say it once. So if I say Hashem Elokechem Emet by myself, and then the chazan says it, and I say Emet, so now I'm repeating what you shouldn't do. So now you're making an excellent point. What is the correct practice as a member of the kahal when the chazan is reading? Read it, the end, read it together with him. You say Hashem and Elokechem Emet together with him. If you want to belt and say it very loud, then you have to say Hashem Elokechem Emet. If you already read it because you're faster than him, then don't say Emet. Okay, don't say Emet. You got it? It's a little bit confusing, but yeah.
It also, if you read it with him, it also contradicts the whisper. You don't scream it.
He whispers, not you. It only matters to him. If there is a way for me to get, without showing my entire screen to everyone, let's do this, 1 second. Okay, you know what? Forget about it. Take a look at the Kol Avotenu Sidur. Oh, you know what? Okay, we're gonna do it because if not now, when? Not now, when? Here we go. I am going to send this. Don't look at my WhatsApp, guys. Okay? Here, let's send the Gemara chat. Okay, sent. Now. Okay, I'm going to share my screen for 1 second. Okay, share. So if you take a look, this is, let's say, what we have in our Siddur. You guys could see this? Ani Hashem Elokechem. You see, Ilan, remember you were saying why are the books combining them? You see, actually here, it's not combined. These 2 dots is the end of the bracha. Then he writes here, chazan whispers and congregation says, okay, so you see, Richard, while the chazan is whispering and the congregation is saying it out loud, but really, as I'm explaining, the congregation shouldn't say this in a vacuum. They should say it as part of Ani Hashem Elokechem Emet, so they should do that. And then, why do they need to say it out loud? Because it's part of the bracha. They need to say Ani Hashem Elokechem Emet v'yatziv v'nachon v'kayam. But they pause for a second, and the chazan repeats Hashem Elokechem Emet. And by listening, you're fulfilling your obligation of doing these 3 extra words. Now look at these footnotes that he has. Footnote number 2. you don't have to connect emet to v'yatziv. You have to connect Elokechem to emet. Emet yatziv is the second bracha. The opinion of Rabbi Yehuda is connect Elokechem to emet. Emet yatziv is already one bracha. Now, according to some, he put a star here. Oh, he has a star and a footnote. Look, there's a star by the first emet, a 2 by the second emet. First star. According to some, the chazan does not say emet here. So that's why it's machloket. So that's why it says chazan whispers. Number 2, one who prays alone repeats as well. Hashem Elokechem Emet. Okay? Honestly, I would put this footnote number 2. If he asks me, I would put it by this comment of chazan repeats. Put the footnote there, because you're giving instruction there and saying one who repeats alone as well. A chazan or someone who repeats by themselves repeats it. Very good. Should we do an enactment? Am chazan. Ani Hashem Elokechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem nedarim. Ani Adonai Elokechem Emet v'yatziv v'nachon v'kayam. You see? And I whispered it, and you say it out loud, but you're saying it, connecting it to your Shema Israel, and then you wait while I say the last 3 of Hashem Elokechem Emet, and then we all continue together. If you're doing it alone, then you could say Hashem Elokechem Emet again by yourself. As it says there, one who prays alone repeats it. Ashkenazim don't repeat it on their own. Instead, they start off by saying El Melech Ne'eman. Let's say they're doing Kriyat Shema Lamita, they say El Melech Ne'eman first. Yes? It's Al-Pi the Zohar. The Zohar says that there are 245 words in the Shema Israel combined, counted up. So you want to add 3 more to get to 248, because that's the number of limbs in your body, and each word corresponds, of this mitzvah, each word corresponds to a different limb of your body. So you have to do +3. Yosef asked, well, why are you picking these 3? The answer is because you have to continue with the next bracha. So these last 3 naturally is the only thing you can do so that you could continue. Except the Ramah says, or you could say 3 words at the beginning of El Melech Ne'eman. So when someone who follows the Ramah is alone, they could do it that way. Okay, good? Yalla, let's go. We didn't even start the Gemara. It's 20 minutes in. We can't do this, guys. We can't. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Okay. All right. Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef said the following. Kama me'alya hay shmatata. This following thing that I'm going to teach you, you don't know how amazing it is. It's the most amazing Dvar Torah I've ever heard. Look how amazing this Dvar Torah is. Ready? Dechi ata Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda Amar. So Rav Shmuel says the name of Rav Shmuel ben Yehuda says, Amri b'ma'arava Arvit. What do they do in Arvit? Did you ever go in Eretz Yisrael to Minyan in their kanisa? I know you just came from there. We're talking about back then. This rabbi, Rav Shmuel, was in Eretz Yisrael. Rav Shmuel came from Eretz Yisrael. He went to Bavel. He says, you guys don't know, I prayed Arvit right there in Yerushalayim. You know what they did for Arvit? Then when he got up to the 3rd paragraph of Shema, this is what they said. They skipped the entire bracha of Vayomer. And if you're looking at the screen, Rabbi Stefanski had a very nice chart. Okay? He says, this Rabbi Stefanski put it in red. They said, Vayomer Hashem Moshe Lemor, Daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta lehem, ani Adonai Elokechem Emet. Like that. They just said what was in red. They cut out of the Arvit a good 1 minute. A minute they saved from the Arvit. Express. Sorry? Yeah, they skipped Mitzrayim. And that's a question on what they're doing. But also it's like, you're just doing, this is what you call nekavim, chalulim, chalulim. You're chopping up the Shema Yisrael and the different things. What are you doing? Now he comes and he says, well, you don't know in Eretz Yisrael they did this. So now we're going to have to unpack this. First of all, why do they do it? How do they do it? Don't they lose out on saying this paragraph of Shema? Don't they lose out on Yisrael Mitzrayim? So let's see. But it's clear what they did. Arvit, Shema Yisrael, their 3rd paragraph is truncated. Okay. Every night. This is what he says. Correct. Every night. Amri Marava Arvit. For Arvit, they would say, Daber al bnei Yisrael v'amarta ani Adonai Elokechem Emet. And they continue. Amri le Abaye. So Abaye says to Rav Yosef, my me'aliuta. Well, what's so great about this? You're saying that this is so amazing. What they're doing is wrong. What's so great about this? V'hamar Rav Kana Marav. Rav told us, lo yatchil. In the nighttime, you don't need to say the 3rd paragraph of Shema. You don't need to. This is what Rav says. Lo yatchil. Don't start it. V'im yitchil gomer. But if you start it, you have to finish it. So you see what Rav is saying is you are not required to say the third paragraph of Shema for Arvit. This is what Rav says. He says you're not required to. But if you start, you can't stop in the middle, you have to go all the way. So say the whole thing. Gomer. Now, and maybe you're going to tell me the place where they got up to of ve'amarta lahem, as you have on the screen, the last words. Maybe you're going to say ve'amarta lahem lo have'atchala. Then you didn't really start yet. Maybe you're going to say no. Rav said it's okay if you say a few words at the beginning, but Rav says if you get up to ve'amarta lahem, you still could skip. Maybe that's what he would say. Ve'amar Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak amarav, but Rav told us daber el bnei Yisrael lo have'atchala. If you just said daber el bnei Yisrael, then you didn't begin yet. You could still call an audible. You could still decide, you know what, I'm going to skip it. If you only said daber el bnei Yisrael. But once you say the words, you begin. And once you begin, you got to finish. So go back to this. Rav tells us, this third paragraph of Shema for Arvit, you don't need to say. But if you start it, you have to finish it. And then he tells us, what does it mean to start? If you only said up until Daber el Bnei Israel, he says, okay, you didn't really start yet. It's very generic. Speak to Bnei Israel. Speak to Bnei Israel could be anything. But if you say Daber el Bnei Israel v'amarta lehem, that's considered starting. That's like unique and specific enough that it's this paragraph. So the opinion of Rav is, if you say the words v'amarta lehem, what does Rav say? You have to say the whole thing. And now Rav Yosef says, you don't know, in Eretz Yisrael they would skip it. It's amazing. Abai says, amazing is against halakha. What's amazing? They're doing something wrong. What's amazing about this? That's the question that Abaye asks from Rav Yosef. Now, let's see what Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa says, okay, here, let's explain to you what's going on. There's an embedded machloket here. Kasavri v'ma'arava in Eretz Yisrael, they hold that ve'amarta lehem nami lo aviatchala. Saying the words ve'amarta lehem are still very generic introduction. Then you didn't really begin this third paragraph. It's still generic enough that you could say, no, you're just saying something general, that it's not, you didn't really begin this paragraph, so you don't have to finish it. Ad de'amar ve'asulam tzitzit. Once you say the words ve'asulam tzitzit, then you have to continue. So it means that Rav says, hey, don't start, but once you start, you got to finish. In Israel, they also hold that way. Don't start, but once you start, you have to finish. They just have a different opinion as to what's considered a start. According to Rav, once you say the word ve'amarta lehem, you started, no backseats. But in Eretz Yisrael, they said, no, that's not the beginning. The beginning is once you say the word ve'asu. Once you say ve'asu lam tzitzit, now no backseats. So very simple. In Israel, what would they do? They would say the maximum that you're allowed to, that you could go and you could skip. So they would say, they didn't say tzitzit. According to Rav, it's too late. You're already down that path. But according to Eretz Yisrael, they would say, no, that's not the case. That's what the source of this machloket, it ends up being these two words of ve'amarta lehem. According to Rav, that's considered that I started this paragraph, and according to in Eretz Yisrael, they would say it's not. One question. Well, okay. What's your question, Ilan?
They're voluntarily saying something that they don't have to say, and then not continue what they want to say. Because it's too long, like it just doesn't make sense.
Okay, very good. So Ilan, yes, question. Yeah. Why don't they say? Okay, very good.
Where they don't even get doesn't even count that they say anything at all.
It's like what are they doing? If you want to skip, so skip. Like this is what Rav said. Don't say it. But if you're gonna say it, do it right. What if once you start? So there's two important details here. Number one, they don't want to say the third paragraph of Shema. They don't want to. Okay, they actually don't want to say it because they don't have to say it at night. That's what they hold. But what happens if what do you lose by doing that? What were we just talking about? Forget about Mitzrayim, which is an important question. But what were we just talking about? Very good. We were just speaking about at the end of Shema saying Adonai Elokechem Emet, right? Combining those words, and you got to say it again, but you don't want to take a break. If they skip the Shema Yisrael's third paragraph, then what do? They go straight into Emet Yatziv Nachon. They don't do this connection. So they say, all right, we want to connect it. But what do? We just say Hashem Elokechem Emet? No, it's out of context. So let's go ahead and set a partial pasuk. But what are you making up a pasuk for, right? So this is where the Ritva says something very important. What? You have an idea on this? Let me show you what the Ritva says. And then based on that, you could sort of put the pieces together. Ritva says the reason they did this is because there's another pasuk in none other than Parshat Achrei mot. And I know this well because it's my bar mitzvah parasha. Daber el bnei Yisrael ve'amarta lehem ani Adonai Elokechem. There's a pasuk that is exactly this. You see what's in red? It's in pasuk Achrei mot. It's if you take these words, there's actually a full pasuk that's written that way. So what are they doing? They're saying, we want to say Adonai Elokechem Emet because we want to fulfill that part. We don't want to say the whole paragraph because we're not required to, because it's Arvit. So how can we do it? You can't just say the 3 random words at the end because that's not a pasuk. But there's another pasuk that we're going to pull out of our inventory. By doing it that way from Parashat Achrei mot, you actually are fulfilling the opportunity of saying Hashem Elokechem Emet, and you're saying a full pasuk, and you're cutting out the entire paragraph. But that only works if you don't consider Ve'amarta lehem starting this paragraph. Because I have that pasuk, then it's not a false start. I didn't start this paragraph. But according to Rav, who says once you say the words Ve'amarta lehem, once you say that, you started, so then you can't do this. Good? So in Israel, they didn't hold that Ve'amarta lehem is locking you in. Why? Because you have this other pasuk. You're not getting locked in. So I could stop it there. But according to Rav, no, that's locking you in. Once you do that, you have to finish the entire thing. Okay? Good? Any questions on this? Yes.
Yeah, for the ones who hold, you don't have to say the last paragraph. Where do they put in the emet? Where emet?
Okay, very good. So David's asking this question. It's the second question that we have. Question number, for those that would say, we're going to skip the entire 3rd paragraph, which Rav says you don't need to say it, and Ma'arava, they were skipping it. Number 1, what do they do with the fact that you want to say Hashem Elokechem Emet, right? You're losing out on that. So yeah, you have this whole workaround where you make up a pasuk or you're truncating pasukim. But what do you do with Hashem Elokechem Emet? And Ilan has another question of, you have a mitzvah, an obligation of Zechirat Yitziat Mitzrayim, to remember Egypt. What do you do with that? So the Gemara is going to address these 2 questions coming up, David. David and Ilan, these questions are going to be addressed right now. Yes?
This whole thing so strange because you're saving 15 seconds by skipping.
Correct. So it's not, okay, I'm saying it like almost like tongue-in-cheek that they're trying to save themselves time. It's not about saving themselves time. Is that there is no requirement to say it in the evening.
Okay, there may not be no requirement, but what do you lose by saying?
What do you gain by saying it? You don't have, you could also say the 10 commandments there, right? But we've learned that sometimes when you do more, you actually end up hurting. Sometimes more is less. Sorry, less is more. If you're not required to say something, then you shouldn't say it, or at least this is what they're sensitive to. So you're right, they can, which is exactly what Rav says. Rav says don't start, but once you start, you got to finish. But you're not required to say it. No. This is the Gemara is going to. Okay, so that's the 3rd question. The Gemara is going to tell us how we hold. Okay, so we got to wait for the next couple lines. The Gemara will tell us all of these discussions. Yes.
It actually doesn't make a difference because it's party and there's repetition, but how come they don't aim for like 248 words? And like,
So you're saying if you're gonna lose your 248, right? If you're skipping, you're losing 248. It's a good question. So you see, the Gemara didn't hold by the Zohar. The Gemara clearly didn't care about the 248 for Arvit because they were not making sure to say every single word. That's a nice proof. You guys saw his proof? So the Gemara doesn't tell us you need to repeat the words Hashem Elokechem Emet. Who says that? I told you, Shulchan Aruch says that based on the Zohar. But you see here, according to the Gemara, you don't have to. Because according to the Gemara, you could actually, for Arvit, skip the entire last paragraph. So you don't have to say 248. That's actually I didn't realize that. Very good. That's like Baruch. Very good pickup. Nice insight. Okay, let's keep going with the Gemara. Here, let me go down down here, Vanna White style. You could only see me if you're live, though. It doesn't go in the recording. Okay. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, only the people on the Zoom know. Then right now I'm sitting in the corner. I'm saying hi, like here. Okay, here we go. Chia bar Rav Amar. Okay, David Elamani, this is for you. Amar ani Hashem Elokechem sarich lomar emet. If you say the words ani Hashem Elokechem, then you need to say the word emet, which means you need to say the bracha of emet ve'emunah ve'emunah kozo v'kayam. You say the entire bracha as is. Lo amar ani Hashem Elokechem. But if you are not saying ani Hashem Elokechem because you're skipping that paragraph, guess what? Eno sarich lomar emet. You don't need to have the same text of the bracha that we have. You don't need to say emet ve'emunah kol v'kayam. You don't need to say that. So you see what's going on here. If you say the third paragraph of Shema and you see ani Hashem Elokechem, then you have to say emet. And if you have to say emet, then you have to say bracha emet ve'emunah. But if you don't say the third paragraph of Shema at Arvit, as we said, you're not required to, according to this, you're not required to, then since you're not saying Hashem Elokechem, you're not required to say Emet. So if you're not saying Emet, you don't have to do that third bracha that way. So the Gemara is going to say, but I need to say the bracha somehow. I need to mention Yetziat Mitzrayim, is what the Gemara is going to ask. V'habaylat kurei Yetziat Mitzrayim. But you need to mention Yetziat Mitzrayim. So you're not going to do it in the Shema Yisrael. Fine. But at least in that paragraph, we say Ra'uvanim et Giburato Shibichu Tabu Gazru Yamsuf Vetrotleim Betzrem Tibotomot Tiba. That whole paragraph has to do with Yetziat Mitzrayim. So Ilan, the Gemara is saying implicitly the bracha after Shema talks about Yetziat Mitzrayim. So that'll be a way to fulfill it. But now that you're not saying the Shema Yisrael, it's third paragraph. You don't need to say Emet. If you don't need to say Emet, you don't need to say the bracha. If you're not saying the bracha, you're not mentioning Yetziat Mitzrayim. Gemara says, no, you have another version. Damar Hachi, you say the following. After you finish the Shema Yisrael, you say, Modim anachnu lach, Hashem Elokenu, she'hotzeitanu me'eretz Mitzrayim, u'v'tiderenu me'et avadim, ve'asita lanu nisim u'gvarot al hayam v'shanu lach. I believe Rashi ends off the bracha for us, right? V'shanu lach. Let me see where Rashi is. Mi chamocha balim, achutcha rov v'necha al Yisrael v'ashkivenu. So you see what Rashi says here. Let me put that on the screen. Commentary. Rashi is like, they like almost assume that you know the rest of the bracha. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. You're following? It comes to Arvit. Here, you see my Sidur? This is my Arvit abridged version. I say, not going to start by Omer, because it's Arvit, I don't need to. Remember, this halakha is not like this, but this is what we're saying now. I'm not going to say by Omer. Since I'm not going to say Vayomer, I don't need to say the word Emet, because one of the things that requires me to say Emet is the fact that I say Hashem Elokechem. Since I'm not saying Hashem Elokechem, I don't need to say Emet. If I don't need to say Emet, what am I going to do with this entire bracha? You know, I says, I'll give you a shortened version of that also. What's the shortened version? It goes like this. Modim anachnu lach, Hashem Elokenu, she'hotzeitanu me'eretz Mitzrayim, u'v'tiderenu me'et avadim, ve'asita lanu nisim u'gvarot al hayam v'shanu lach. Mi chamocha b'anim Hashem, mi kamocha d'arba kodesh, shenarti lo tzefedem, achutcha ra'u v'necha al hayam, etc., etc. Baruch Hashem ka'al Yisrael. So what you're really doing is, if you go to the Sidur, what you do if you're going to the Sidur is, oh, this is Shacharit. Oh, okay. Let me go to the Seder Tefillot of Arvit. Okay, so we'll do this together. After Kimei Hashemayim al Haaretz, we say Modim anachnu lach, etc., etc. And then what was Rashi says you skip to Mi Chamocha. Mi Chamocha ba'alim Hashem, Mi Kamocha d'arba kodesh shenarti l'tzefedem, achutcha Hashem ra'u v'nechal yam, yachad g'al Yisrael. So you're skipping all of this. You take all of this, you replace it with one line of Modim anachnu lach, and now what you've done is you've skipped the entire third paragraph of Shema. You skipped these first however many 10 lines. You've replaced it with a one-liner Modim anachnu lach, and that's it. They're really making their Arvit fast. They you know, like on Yom Kippur, when you open the Sidur is the size of the entire Chamisha Chumshei Torah. The Sidur of one day is like the entire 24 books of Tanakh. You have every single thing that's ever talking about anything, and it's like you're giving a single mention to every single anyone that ever wrote anything comes into the Sidur. Rabbi Chaim always says, like, instead of making this bigger, we should make it smaller and like skip things. There are certain things you have to say, but things that have been added, you skip. Why? Because it's a strain. The thing is, people have nowhere to go. So if you have nowhere to go, you might as well be reading. But still, there are certain things that Rabbi Chaim always says. It's like, okay, so say the first 2 lines and say the last 2 lines. I'm not talking about the Amidah. Don't like, oh, Rabbi Chaim said you only need to do Shacharit and Ne'ilah. Skip Musaf, and I didn't say that. There's certain things you have to say. It's the extra things, the fine print, the mitkoshashim, mitoshashim. Yeah, the tachanun. Sometimes you go on this, you go up and down, then you go down and up. You can say it, But you don't necessarily have to if it's going to be a thing. So sometimes you want to do less. You see how back then also there was this idea of, look, let's take it down to its bare bones minimums and see what we're required to say. You want to say more, say more. No one's going to stop you. But let's see what you can do. Here's what you can do. Arvit, skip the last paragraph, skip the first half of Emunah, mention Yitziat Mitzrayim and Gal Yisrael. Yalla, Hashkivenu, and then they go. They would do it quickly. Also keep in mind, they wouldn't have the same Bet Knesset that we had. They were praying out in the fields. They were out in the fields in the dark. It could be how it's dangerous. It could be an animal all of a sudden attacks you. The more time you're outside, the more exposed you are. They would try to keep tefillah, especially Arvit. They would keep it quick. They would do very fast. And there's a lot to discuss. I'm going to stop here, but meaning about this idea. But there's value in saying, look, don't drag things out for no reason. Instead of saying more, do me'at bechavana. Do what's required with the proper intention instead of adding and reading everything without understanding at all. What's better, to read one parak of Tehillim and to understand it and to have it affect you, or to read the entire Tehillim which you didn't absorb even one word? Now, maybe there's value in that also. These are the words of David HaMelech. These are the words of written through Nevuah. So there's value in that also. But if it can go beyond your lips and go penetrate your heart, penetrate your mind, penetrate your neshama, change you, and inspire you to change, who's going to say that, no, it's better not to change? Who in their right mind would say, Ribono Shel Olam wants you not to have any idea what you're saying. He just wants you to say things without understanding it. Of course not. Of course. So if you have the opportunity to say, you know what, let's focus on less, then you can, there's cost-benefit analysis. The best would be read the entire Tehillim, understand everything in words, and do it 3 times. Okay? That would be the best, if you can do that. But if you can't, you also have to understand how there's sensitivities that maybe sometimes doing more, back to what I said, sometimes less is more. Okay. Yes. So there's a machloket. There's a machloket between Bavel and Eretz Yisrael. So yeah. So that's what we're saying now, is that there was different versions of it. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. Like we're not making these types of changes to our Siddur now. But back then, as this is being established, there was different customs and different practices. Okay, let's go. Am I still sharing screen? I hope you guys are really experts in Shema Yisrael by now. Okay? If anyone says the word emet extra times, you remember what we did last time? The Gemara, there was someone who went chazan and he said extra a bunch of times. The rabbi's like, look at this guy. This guy's the emet monster. He's just saying the word emet, emet, emet. Like, relax, say it enough times, no more than that. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Okay, quick reminder from our Mishnah, Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha. Can anyone tell me, why do we have the order of the Shema Yisrael in these 3 paragraphs? So first Ve'ahavta, Shema Yisrael, first Shema Yisrael, then V'haya, then Vayomer. Anyone, raise of hands. Who knows? Someone's got to know. Mishnah,
acknowledging the
what?
Acknowledging the sovereignty of God, and
Okay,
then accepting the
Hashem, accepting the heavenly yoke. Very good.
accepting the mitzvot.
Accepting the old mitzvot. Okay, very good. Andy's raising his hand. Andy, you say the third one.
I forgot the third one. I knew the second one.
The answer is process of elimination. That's what you left there. No. So the first one is accepting Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim, then Kabbalat Ol Mitzvot. So the first one is you're accepting God. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. I'm accepting Hashem. The next one is Vayayim Shamoa Tishmeu Al Mitzvotai. Listen to Hashem's mitzvot. So I accept to do what He says. And the third one is a specific application of the mitzvah of tzitzit, or a mitzvah of Yitziat Mitzrayim, which is a specific mitzvah, as opposed to Im Shamoa Tishmeu Al Mitzvotai, listening to all of them. First, you accept God as you accept Hashem's heavenly yoke. Then you accept to do the mitzvot, and then here is a particular specific mitzvah that you are accepting to do. That's the order that Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha told us. The Braita is going to tell us another reason why we have this order. Okay, everyone with me? Buckle your seats. Let's go. Tanya, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai Omer. Oh, we already did one Zohar tonight. Here we're doing another. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai says the following: Badinhu she'akdim Shema levahaya im shamoa. Shema should come before Vahaya. Shezeh lilmod, because Shema is about learning Torah. Because it says v'dibarta bam, which means to learn. But v'zeh lelamed, the second paragraph is you should teach your children. First paragraph is to learn. Second paragraph is to teach. And then V'haya im shamoa levayomer. Why is it that V'haya im shamoa should come before Vayomer? Shezeh lilmod, or really Shezeh lilamed, because the second paragraph is to teach. V'zeh la'asot. And then the last one is V'asu lahem sisit. Go and do it. So the first paragraph is learn. Second paragraph is now teach it to others. And third paragraph is now go out and do it. V'asu lahem sisit. This is where Bishun Berecha tells us the order of why the Shema Yisrael is. First, you have to learn it, then you have to teach it, then you have to go do it. Okay? V'dibarta bam in the first paragraph is to learn it. To teach your children is the second paragraph, is not to teach it. And then V'asu lahem sisit comes to be the third paragraph. Okay, good. Well, no, you have to learn what to do. So first, before you do something, you have to learn what to do. So you first have to learn it. And then you have to teach it, which I guess is part of the learning process. So make sure you teach it, give it over, and then you go out and do it. Okay, you have a good question though. But okay, let's put it on hold for now. So the Gemara says, hold on a second, time out. You're telling me that the second paragraph has to do with teaching? Sorry, what does it say in the first paragraph? Is there anything about teaching in the first paragraph? Something about your children? Veshinantam levanecha means teach it over to your children. So the first paragraph is not just v'dibarta bam, it's also veshinantam levanecha, to teach your children. So atu shema lilmod itbe, is it the case? Atu means, is it so? Is it so that shema, the first paragraph, lilmod itbe, it has learning, l'lamed v'la'asot leitbe, but it doesn't have teaching, and it doesn't have doing? It has, v'haketiv, but it says veshinantam, which means to teach. Uksharta means you should wrap your tefillin, that's doing. Uchtata means you should write a mitzvah. That's doing. So you're telling me, first paragraph is to learn. Second paragraph is to teach. First paragraph is also to teach. Third paragraph is to do. First paragraph is also to do. The same way the third paragraph says to do sisit, the first one says do tefillin. So what are you talking about? Vitu, let me go further. V'haya im shamoa. The second paragraph, you're going to tell me, it only has teaching. It doesn't have doing. The second paragraph also says wrap your tefillin. Write your mizuzot. So really, all three paragraphs have doing, and two of them. What? Oh, so there's a specific one of sisit, but there's a specific one of uchtavtam al mizuzot betecha. There is the specific mitzvah, so you have to do a mitzvah. So the first paragraph you said is only to learn, but it's not only to learn, it's also to teach, it's also to do. The second paragraph you said is only to teach. It's not just to teach, it's also to do. And then the third paragraph is to do. So maybe from the way the Gemara is phrasing the question, you could already understand what the answer is. What's the answer? The answer is yes. The first paragraph has learning, teaching, and doing. It says v'dibarta bam v'shinantam v'uchtavtam. The second paragraph doesn't have learning; it has teaching. It's teaching, and uchtavtam means to do. And the third paragraph doesn't include learning or teaching; it's just ve'asu. So that's what it's going to say. It's saying you're right. I'm not saying the first one doesn't have teaching. I'm saying the first one also has learning over the others. And the second one also has teaching. Let's go ahead and see it. I'm going to show you a chart by Rabbi Stefanski. Elihachi Kamar. Be'adinu shetikdam Shema levayam Shema. Shema should come first. Shezeh lilmod ulamed v'la'asod. Because the first paragraph has all three actions. Learning, teaching, and doing. V'hayim Shamoa levayomer. V'haya should come before Vayomer. Shezeh yesh ba lelamed v'la'asod. Because the second paragraph has teaching and doing, which is 2 out of 3. And then Vayomer in bilvad. The third one is only the action of actually doing. So let me go ahead and show you this chart by Rabbi Eli Stefanski. Beautiful chart, the way he did it. This is Parasha Rishonah, the first paragraph. Parasha Sheniah is the second paragraph. Parasha Shlishit is the third paragraph. The first one has to learn, which is V'dibarta bam. It has to teach, which is Vishinantam levanecha, to teach your children, and it also has la'asot, to do, because it tells you should put on your tefillin, you should write your mezuzot. So there's an action. The second one has to teach in the green, and it also has to do. The third one only has the action of to do. La'asot means to do. So then what you end up having is, the Gemara says, the first one has to learn, the second one has to teach, and the third one has to do. The Gemara says, what are you talking about? The first one also has. The Gemara says, yes, this is what's extra. The first one has this extra to learn. The second one has extra over the next to teach. And the last one has the only thing remaining is to do. This is why you have the order in this order. Okay? There's a process of learning. Going back to what Elon says, you can't do without learning it. You can't do a mitzvah without learning what the mitzvah is. You don't know what to do. So doing is insufficient by itself because it's you don't know if you're even doing it correct. So you're gonna have to learn. And part of the learning process is to teach. That's really part of learning, is being able to teach it over. If you learn it, but you're not able to teach it over, then you're not really in the state that you're fully learning it. So all of these are important. And that's why the first paragraph gives you all three. Then the second one is just two of them. And then the last one is the third one. Okay, so what's Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha's reason as to why we have this order of the Shema Yisrael? Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha's reason. Go. What's his reasoning? That's the reason that we said in the Mishnah. What's the reason, Jared? What's the reason? Very good. First paragraph, you accept God as a heavenly yoke. Second paragraph, you accept the all mitzvot, the fulfillment of doing mitzvot in general. Third paragraph is a specific mitzvah that you're doing, specific mitzvah. Rabbi Shimon Bar gives us another reason. He says first paragraph because it has three verbs of learning, teaching, and doing. Second paragraph because it has two verbs of teaching and doing. And Bayomer because it only has doing, right? Now the Gemara says, okay, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, you came and gave this answer. Why didn't you like Rabbi Shimon Bar Korcha's answer? Why do you need two answers? That's what the Gemara is going to ask now. Let's see that. So the Gemara says, why do you need another reason? What's wrong with Rabbi Shimon ben Korcha and the reasoning that he gave in the Mishnah? So the Gemara says, Chada ve'od kamar. He's saying, yeah, you're right. That's one reason. And here's the second reason. Chada kadeshi kabel alav ol malchut shamayim. The first reason is so that you accept heavenly yoke techila first. Ve'achar kachi kabel alav ol mitzvot. And then you accept to do the mitzvot. That's the first reason. And the second reason, ve'od mishum de'it bahani milei achar naita. Because the fact that there's three verbs and two verbs and one verb. So we have now just said how there's nothing wrong with the first answer. I'm just tacking on a second answer. You have an additional answer as to why the Shema Yisrael was established in this order. Okay? Are we good? We're good? Okay. We're going to say a story with Rav. And now I want you to pay attention to this story and tell me what you think the problem might be. According to Rashi, this happened once. Rav was the name of a rabbi. Mashe Yadeh, he washed his hands one morning. Okay, so this is in the morning. He washes his hands. Ukra kriyat shema, meaning he doesn't netilat yadayim. That's what Mashe Yadeh means. It's like he woke up and there was Talmidim there. They saw he did netilat yadayim. After netilat yadayim, ukra kriyat shema, he read Shema. Ve'anach tefillin, then he put on his tefillin. V'tzaleh, then he prayed the Amidah. That was the order. Wash his hands, read Shema, put on tefillin, and prayed. Is there anything that you think is abnormal or out of the ordinary of this sequence? Yeah? He put on he said Shema before putting on tefillin. Like normally we put on tefillin first, right? Why would he say Shema before putting on his tefillin? Oh, Tomer, you jumped all over that. Yeah, you jumped all over that answer. Very good. He's saying what? Yeah. I'm gonna give you the certificate. Yeah. So this could very well be look because the Gemara, the way Rashi explains it, this happened one time. I believe Rashi says that. Let's just see Rashi. Rav Mashe Yadeh. No, maybe it wasn't Rashi. Rav Mashe Yadeh Pam Achat Reusha Asaken. Yes. So Rashi says that once they did this. Look at this Rashi commentary. Rashi says Rav Mashe Yadeh Pam Achat Reusha Asaken. They one time they saw him do this. Ve'echi avidachi. How did he do this? Shektim Kriyat Shema Tefillin, that he did Kriyat Shema before Tefillin. So Tomer already gave up an answer. It's like, oh, you know why? Because there's a Zman for Shema. There's a latest time. So maybe we're playing with that. Okay? Maybe. Let's see. Let's put that on pause and let's see if that's the answer. The Gemara first wants, yeah, go ahead.
Or he said,
Berachot Torah, it doesn't say that he said. It doesn't say that he said, which is an interesting question of if you're saying Kriyat Shema as a mitzvah, then maybe it's not really fulfilling your mitzvah of Torah, so maybe you don't need to say it. Very interesting. We actually discussed this at some point about if you don't say it and then you say the bracha of Ahavat Olam or Avar Rabba, maybe that'll count. We did discuss this. But yeah, from here, this order, it sounds like he skipped it. Why? He was only doing the mitzvah of Shema. Okay, the Gemara now wants to actually say, maybe there's another reason why he did this. So Tomer, you said, oh, maybe it was because of the circumstance it was late. Could there be another reason? Maybe fundamentally he holds that Shema should go before Tefillin. Can someone maybe guess, based on what we just learned about Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, what's a reason why maybe you would say Shema has to go before you do Tefillin? Sorry? Okay. Remember, the paragraph of Shema comes first. The Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim, you have to accept the heavenly yoke. Maybe he held, before I do a mitzvah, I first have to accept God. The same way how Shema comes before Behaya, because you have to accept God before you accept the mitzvot. Maybe he says, I first have to accept Hashem, and then I'm going to do the mitzvah. Maybe that's why. That's what the Gemara wants to play around with. Okay? Sorry? Then you have to do every single... the first thing you have to do is you have to accept Hashem. Not that you have... In the morning, he woke up, first thing, Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim, first accept Hashem. Now I go do mitzvot. Like maybe that's where it's going. So Berachot Torah is not accepting Hashem. Well, I guess it could be, but what we're saying is the paragraph of Shema is accepting God as is like the pledge of allegiance to Hashem, much stronger than the bracha of Berachot Torah. Okay, so first the Gemara is let's analyze this. Ready? We're gonna go in. First, it's going to say, based on another story, what the order should be. Why did he do this? How did he do this? We learned in a Braita. Now we're going to go to someone who is involved with the mitzvah of kevura. Someone that is burying a relative or burying a dead body. Okay? Someone that's involved with the chevra kadisha. Someone that's involved with the burials. It says, this is what the Braita says. Hachofer huch lemet bakever. Let's say someone is digging a grave for someone who died. He's involved with a mitzvah. Patur mikriyat Shema. He is patur from doing the mitzvah of kriyat Shema. Umina tefillah. He doesn't need to pray. Umina tefillin. He does not need to put on tefillin. Umikol mitzvot amorot paturah. From all of the mitzvot of the Torah, he's patur. What is the rule that if you're involved with one mitzvah, you're patur from other mitzvot? Say it louder. Okay, and now whoever didn't say it together with him. Osek b'mitzvah, patur min mitzvah. If I'm involved with one mitzvah, I'm patur from another mitzvah. Where did we learn this? Not with me, you didn't. But yeah, it's in Masechet Sukkah. You're right. It's in Masechet Sukkah. Yes. Guys, it was 3 pages ago, okay? It's Daf Yud Aleph. Masechet Berachot, Daf Yud Aleph is the answer. Very good. Okay. It was, I say this 3 pages ago, but that was like 6 months ago. It was a while ago. It was maybe 2 months ago. But yeah, you're right. It's Masechet Sukkah, Daf Kaf Hei Amud Aleph. It's also Masechet Berachot, Daf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph, where it says, Osek b'mitzvah, patur min mitzvah. You're involved with one mitzvah, you're patur from the other ones. Why? Because it says Shema b'shivtecha b'veitecha. When do you have to say v'dibart bam? When do you have to say Shema? When you're sitting in your home, b'shivtecha b'veitecha. All right, but if you're doing a mitzvah, you don't need to. And then it says b'lachtecha b'derech. A chatan doesn't need to. Okay, we spoke about this. If you want to go back, watch the videos. So now we're giving a specific case. Someone is doing the mitzvah of kivura. They're involved in the mitzvah of chesed shel emet, burying the dead. So what does the Braita say? You don't need to do anything. No Shema, no tefillah, no tefillin, nothing. Focus on what you're doing. Okay? Higia zman kriyat Shema, but the Braita continues. But when the time of Shema comes, ole, leave the burying, leave. V'notel yadav, do netilat yadayim. Maniach tefillin, put on your tefillin. Tefillin comes first. Koreh kriyat Shema, say the Shema, umitpalel, and then pray. So first thing is, Rav did this action where one time he washed his hands, said Shema, put on his tefillin. We said, hold on a second, hold on, Rav. Look, there's a Braita. The Braita says that if someone is burying the dead or is digging a grave, you don't need to do anything. And when the time of Shema comes, go wash your hands, put on your tefillin, then say Shema. So first thing, what's wrong with your order? Your order is going against our Braita. But even before that, the Braita just said you don't need to do it. The Braita just said you're patur, and then it says, and when the time of Shema comes, to go do it. He just said don't do it. So first we need to understand the Braita. Hagufa kasha. First, the question itself is, let me understand the Braita. Reisha amar patur. In the first time you told me I'm patur, I'm exempt from doing all the mitzvot. Seifa chayav, and then later you said, okay, but go and do it in this order. You just told me I don't need to do it. Hala kasha. No, it's not. There's not a contradiction. Seifa bitrei v'reisha bechad. I'll tell you why. Because the beginning, when it says you don't need to do anything, it's when you're the only one burying. If this person is the only one burying, then they have to keep going. You don't need to do Shema. Seifa, the second clause of the Braita that says, oh, when the time comes, go pray, betray. That's when there's two people. One of the two, they could take shifts. One of you keep digging, while the other one goes, puts on his tefillin and says Shema, and then he comes back, and then the other one goes. So yeah, I told you that you're patur if there's one person, and if there's two people, you're chayav. But the whole point, that's beside the point. What we're really trying to glean from this Braita is what? The order. What's the order that it prescribes? It says first, go leave the burying, go wash your hands, put on tefillin, say Shema, say Amidah. Rav, in one incident, washed his hands, said Shema, then put on his tefillin, then said Amidah. So why? Mikol makom kashe Rav. This Braita is a question for Rav. So, now we're going to come up with a hypothesis. Tell you why. Rav, Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, because Rav holds like Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha. Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha said in our Mishnah that the Shema is the first paragraph because first you have to accept God, and then only then you can do the mitzvot. So he, the Amar Ol Malchut Shamayim Techila, ve'achar kach ol mitzvot. First you have to accept the heavenly yoke and then do the mitzvot. That's why Rav first said Shema and then did the mitzvah of Tefillin. Is an Amorah. He's following the Tana of Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha. Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha says, hey, you know why Shema should come first? Because you first have to accept God before you accept the mitzvot. So he says, okay, so I'm going to say Shema, then do the mitzvot. The Gemara says, that's not what Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha said. What did Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha say? He said, you read this paragraph before that paragraph because this paragraph has more than that. Or this paragraph comes first, logically. Emar de Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha. What did Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha say? L'hakdim kriya lekriya. He's telling you which paragraph to read first. Kriya la'asiyah mi shamat le. Did Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha ever say that you need to say Shema before you do mitzvot? He didn't say that. He didn't say you need to say Shema before you put on your tefillin. He just says you need to say the first paragraph of Shema before the second paragraph of Shema. V'tu, and all the more so, let me get you one more strong question. Mi savar leik Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha. Does Rav really hold like that? Rav, you're going to now explain that, Rav is of the opinion that before you do the mitzvah of tefillin, you first have to accept God. That's not what Rav holds. We know that. Rav Chia bar Asher says, this rabbi said, he was one of the students of Rav. Zimnin sagin avakamina kamid Rav. Many times I was in front of Rav, and now whoever asked that question about saying the Berachot Torah, Gabriel, what would he do? Magdim, he would wake up, Mashe Yadeh, wash his hands. Mivarech, he would say Berachot Torah. Umatni lan pirkin, and he would teach us Mishnayot. He would teach us a Gemara class. He would say Berachot Torah, teach us Gemara class. Manach tefillin, he would wear his tefillin. V'hadar karei kriyat Shema, and then he would say the Shema. So here's what happened. One time Rav said Shema before he put on his tefillin. What did the Gemara do? He's like, Rav holds like Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha that you have to accept God before you could do all the mitzvah. They're like, there's a timeout. Hold on. Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha didn't say that you have to say Shema before you do any mitzvah. That's not what he said. He said you should say the first paragraph of Shema before the second paragraph. So don't go attach this opinion to Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha. Second of all, this was one time. Then what is it? Rav Chia says, look, I'm one of his students. I go to his shiur every single day. Every single day he would come, say Berachot Torah, teach a shiur, then he put on his tefillin and pray like the rest of us. What are you talking about? Creating an entire viewpoint, a philosophy of Rav. This is not what he holds. Maybe you're going to say, Tomer's answer. maybe this belongs to the Tomer. V'chi teman, maybe you're gonna say like Tomer. Oh no, sorry. Tomer, no, opposite version, opposite. Maybe you're gonna say, you know why? These times that you saw him do it in this order. He first put on his tefillin. Really, he wanted to say Shema first, but he couldn't say Shema first. Why? Because it wasn't the time of Shema yet. Maybe that's why. Maybe Rav is of the opinion that you always have to say Shema first and then put on your tefillin. You, Rebbe Chia, right? What's his name? Yeah, Rebbe Chia. You came and you say, no, he always puts on his tefillin first. I always said, oh, you know why? Because when you saw him, it wasn't the time of Shema yet. So then he had to put on his tefillin first. So maybe it's not the time of Shema. If that's the case, but then what is Rabbi Chia coming and saying, like, you don't know so many times I saw him do this? Of course he's going to do that. What else is he going to do? There's nothing for him to do. You wanted to say Shema first. It's not the time of Shema. So what are you coming here and saying? So many times I saw him do this. Of course he did that. There's nothing special about that. If it's a situation where it's still nighttime or it's still too early to say Shema, of course he didn't say Shema yet. The Gemara is going to say, okay, I'll tell you what he was saying there. La puke, miman amar, la mishnah in tzarich levarech. You know why Rabbi Chia came and told us this testimony? He was coming to teach us something else. There was a discussion we had earlier in Gemara B'Sechel Berachot of if you're only learning Mishnayot, do you have to say Birkat Torah? Is Birkat Torah if you're learning Pesukim, or is it even there if you're learning Mishnayot? So what was Rabbi Chia saying? Rabbi Chia was telling us many times, I saw Rav get up, wash his hands, say the Baracha, teach us Mishnayot, put on his tefillin, say Shema, and then pray. And you might say like, okay, look, his order is first tefillin, then Shema. So it's teaching us that comes first. And you might say, no, he only did that because it was too early. So then what is he coming to teach us? I'll tell you what he's coming to teach you. He's coming to teach you the first thing that he said is that he would wash his hands, say Birkat Torah, and teach Mishnayot. He wanted to tell you that Rav would hold, according to the opinion, that even if you're not learning Psukim, even if you're only learning Gemara, for example, or only learning Mishnah, you still need to do Birkat Torah, right? It's coming to exclude the opinion that says, for Mishnah, you don't need to make Beracha. Rabbi Chia is coming to tell us that I saw many times Rav say Beracha and then teach Mishnayot. That's why he's giving us his testimony, not about the other part. So the Gemara at the end says, Mikol Makom Kashil Rav. At the end of the day, we have a question. What was Rav doing? Sometimes he'd go in this order, sometimes he'd go in that order. One time he went in that order. What happened? The Gemara says, very simple. Similar to Tomer's answer, not exactly, but look what he said. Shelucha hu de'avet. His messenger made a mistake. Right? The way they translate is the messenger was at fault and brought Rav his tefillin late. What happened? He came to Minyan. He says, okay, what do I do first? Put on my tefillin. Where's my tefillin? His chombe servant said like, oh, sorry, I only brought my own. Sorry. Go back and get it. Or something like that. Or maybe the Eved wasn't Jewish. I'm just sorry. I was hungry. I had to run to go get myself some food. I forgot to bring your tefillin. Go get my tefillin. So in the meantime, now he's just sitting there. So what did he do? So he said Shema Yisrael. So one time, everyone saw Rav. One time, washed his hands, said the Shema Yisrael, put on his tefillin. They say, oh, Rav, you have to say Shema before you have tefillin. Well, the guy didn't bring his tefillin. He was waiting for his tefillin. He didn't want to sit there doing nothing. So that one time, he said Shema Yisrael and then put on his tefillin afterwards. Okay. That's why Rashi says it was once. Because what's the Gemara's answer? It says the Eved made a mistake. If the Eved makes that mistake twice, you fire him. He's never making that mistake again. Right? One time the Eved made the mistake. He says, listen, you have one job. You're coming here. You're not coming to do anything else. You're a guy coming for the breakfast. No. They had like a nice breakfast, so he came and he rushed. It's not for the breakfast. You have to bring the tefillin of the rabbi. Okay. What time is it? 9:38. Okay. Okay. One last statement we'll say, and then we're gonna pick up from this last time. Next time, I mean, and then this is just to like give us some closure on the topic. Okay. Yeah, you know what? We don't really need to do this now. I want to choose this one line, and then we're going to repeat this next time. Amar Ula. Ula teaches the following thing. Very important statement. Kol hakoreh kiryat Shema velo tefillin. Someone who reads Shema without wearing the tefillin, ki'ilu me'id edut sheker le'atzmo. It's as though he is incriminating himself by going to court and testifying against himself. Someone is saying Shema at a time that he should be wearing tefillin, but he's not wearing a tefillin, he's incriminating himself. Why? Someone tell me why.
Say,
Because what?
doing what you're saying.
Because you're
When you do wear tefillin,
because you're not doing what you're saying. You're incriminating yourself. You come and you say, hey, Ribono Shel Olam, you said put on tefillin, and you're not putting it on. You're saying the Shema Yisrael, Ribono Shel Olam, you told me to put on tefillin. What are you saying Shema Yisrael without tefillin on? So here, where the Gemara is opening this up, why is the Gemara opening this up? The Gemara is opening this up is because we had the story with Rav, where Rav one time said Shema and then put on tefillin afterwards. And we said, okay, that was a situation because he had no other choice. He didn't have his tefillin. So what did you want from him? He didn't have any other choice. Once he got his tefillin, he did it. But normally, someone wants to do this? No, it's improper. It's inappropriate to say Shema without your tefillin on. Why? Because you're ki'ilu me'id edu sheker ba'atzmo. It's like you're incriminating yourself. You're bringing a false testimony about yourself. Amar Rabbi Chiya bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Ki'ilu hikriv olah belo mincha." It's like you're bringing a korban, but you're missing a part of it that needs to be brought. When you bring a korban olah, you need to bring a korban mincha with it. You're only bringing part of it. V'zevach belo nesachim. You're only doing a half job. You're coming and you're saying Shema, but in the Shema you're saying to do the tefillin and you're not doing it. You're coming with a half job. It's like when someone brings you something, does something, and it's incomplete. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you only doing half of a job? So obviously this brings out some questions. What are the questions that this brings out? Yeah. Very good. This brings out every single what if question that you can, right? What if you're in a situation where you don't have your tefillin? What if you're in a situation where you're going to miss your Shema Yisrael in the right time, like what Tomer said? What if the time of Shema is at 9, let's say 9 o'clock, and you wake up at 8:55? And like, by the time I put on my tefillin, I'm going to miss the time of Shema. What if these situations? So what if every single Shabbat? Like, what if it's Shabbat? Right, exactly, good question. Oh, so you're saying, I'll skip the line of tefillin. Exactly, you learned well from our Gemara. You just skip lines that you don't want to say.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Rabbi.
Right, so you have to.
Is that what about Shema in general? What about Arvit? Yeah. What? So you have the question about what about Arvit? I'm not wearing my tefillin. What about Shabbat? I'm not wearing my tefillin. Very good. Very good. Yes, Mr. Korvani, a question on this?
Yes, Rabbi. I'm just wondering, how is it? Let's just compare it to nowadays. Let's say Rabbi Ben Chaim sits down, and all the rabbis, like yourself, you sit at a table, you're learning from him, and obviously you're watching what he does. And
Yeah,
let's say he puts on tefillin, and then he also puts on Rabbeinu Tam afterwards, right?
Yes.
Let's just take it for example.
Yes.
And let's say he had an eved that he would bring for him the tefillin and so forth.
Okay.
Wouldn't it, let's say one time he forgot, the eved got his food, and he forgot to bring the Rashi tefillin for Rabbi. And Rabbi says, look, I'm not saying even if it's possible, I'm just theoretically. He says, let me put the Rabbeinu Tam, meanwhile, he made a mistake. Let me put it on. Everybody's watching.
Excellent.
I just don't understand how did that Rabbi Ben Chaim wouldn't explain to his kids, to his children, to his students, guys, I'm just doing this because, he forgot my tefillin, or I forgot it, don't want to embarrass the eved. This is not the right way to do. Why wouldn't they explain what they did, that everybody goes into these kind of questions? No, that you don't know, only once it happened. If it happened, why would you explain that? Don't think that always this is the way to do.
Amazing question. Excellent question. Rav, the Gemara at the end says, you know why he did it in this order? Because he didn't have his tefillin. His tefillin hasn't arrived yet. So Mr. Korvani says, we just spent a bunch of questions trying to see if this is a philosophical opinion about him and going out of order, and we brought another bright time about another. Why didn't he just say? Why didn't he just explain? I'm doing this because my tefillin's not here yet, right? Why would he do something that is against normal protocol without explaining what he's doing? Okay, excellent question. Mr. Korvani, I believe the answer is he did. And that's in fact how the Gemara knows the answer. The Gemara says, no, you misunderstood, which means you can't control who sees something. What happened was there was a rumor. Did you hear what happened? Did you see what happened? Oh, he did this. I know why he did this. I know why he did this. I know why he did this. Until finally someone comes and says, excuse me, I just asked him, and I know I was there. I spoke with him. This is the reason why. So, Mr. Korvani, what you're saying is exactly correct. Rav did tell his students, and he didn't even need to tell his students because the students who saw it happen understood it was because the servant who was bringing it was late. The issue is you don't control what people see, and I can tell you it's happened with me many times personally that I've done one thing, and then people say, "How come you did this?" And I'm like, "I didn't." I remember one time I remember very vividly, one time it happened with Rosh Chodesh that someone was chazan and they forgot Ya'aleh V'Yavo, and I told them to repeat it. And then as he was repeating it, someone came and told me, how come you told him not to repeat it? I said, who told him not to repeat it? You just happened to hear, you heard what I said minus a word, and you're asking me why I told him don't repeat it. I told him to repeat it. He's like, how come you told him? Oh, so Mr. Goran, I think you're absolutely correct. I think it's a responsibility of any rabbi or anyone who's doing something that's against proper halakha or proper normal, typical protocol to explain himself. But at the end of the day, you can't control who's in the room and who sees what and who speaks about what. And there's always people that are misconstruing. And that's why we have this Gemara. And in fact, the Gemara comes forward with a possibility, and the Gemara says it cannot be, until finally we came forward and said, you're right. None of this is correct. It's actually just a very simple misunderstanding. Okay? But it's an excellent point that it's a responsibility if you're doing something, and we'll end up with this. It's this week's parasha. Is it this week's? Hashem Elokechem? Wow. This week's parasha, Mr. Korvani, perfect segue. And we'll end up with some divrei Torah for the parasha. What happens in this week's parasha? You have a couple of tribes that go to Moshe Rabbeinu and say, we don't want to enter the land of Israel. We want to stay on the eastern side of the Jordan River, right? You guys familiar with the story? It's this week's parasha. We don't want to go into the land of Israel. Why? We have a lot of sheep. We need a lot of grassland, grazing fields. There's a lot on this side. We have a lot of sheep. This is what our Anshe Mikneh. We are shepherds. We're going to come into Israel. You don't have sheep, and we're going to need all of this land. If we stay here, everyone wins. We get more land. They get more land. It gets divided more. Everything great. What does Moshe Rabbeinu say? Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? 40 years ago, you had people that didn't want to go into the land of Israel. They started a whole big fuss. They said, we don't want to go. And then Hashem said, you're all going to die in the desert. Now you're going to repeat the mistake of your grandparents, and you're going to come and you're going to say, you don't want to enter Israel? We're going to get stuck here for another 40 years. Are you serious?" They said, no. You didn't understand what we said. What we said is, we're going to settle our families and our sheep and our kids and our wives. Then we're going to come fight on the front lines of the war. We're going to come with you, fight with you until the end, and we will not go back home until we have conquered every single corner. So not only are we saying that we want Israel, we're saying we're going to fight for the land even though we won't get it ourselves. It's an opposite message. And what does Moshe say? Moshe says, okay, now I got it. If this is what you want to do, V'item Nikiim. Anyone know the next two words? You will be clear, Me'Hashem u'Mi-Yisrael. You will be clearing your name from God, which means the responsibility that you have to God. You're showing that you're not doing anything wrong, but Hashem Yisrael, and also from the perception of Israel. Why? Because even if you have good intention, Mr. Korvani, exactly what your point is. Even if you have good intention, if people don't know what your intention is, if people think that you don't want to enter the land because you think it's a bad land, then guess what? that perception is going to exist. They say perception is real. Perception is reality. So if people think you're not entering the land because you think it's not a good land, then people are, whether that's what your intention is or not, that's what people are going to think. That's a major problem. But if you come and you fight on the front lines of the war, you're clear your obligation from God, Israel, and others, because now others will see. So exactly like what you're saying, Mr. Cordovani, there's a very important idea that you can't just say, live and let live, I mind my own business, don't ask why I'm doing this. No, if you're doing something that smells a little bit off, that looks a little bit off, you have an obligation to make sure that you clear your name and clear your reputation and to show that I'm doing things in the proper way, okay? Beautiful segue to this week's parasha. Hazak Baruch, everyone. Hashem, we'll see you next week in good health. Hazak Baruch.
Thank you, Rabbi. Good night.